The rifle shot echoed through the canyon as Sarah's horse collapsed beneath her, blood pooling in the red dirt. 3 Apache warriors circled her fallen form, their painted faces gleaming in the harsh Arizona sun. She clutched her father's letter to her chest, the one that had brought her to this godforsaken territory, promising a teaching position that never existed. Now she lay dying in the dust, her lips cracked, her canteen empty for 2 days. "Please," she whispered in broken Spanish, the only words she could manage. The youngest warrior raised his tomahawk, but a commanding voice stopped him cold. From behind the rocks emerged a man unlike the others, taller, with scars crossing his bronze chest and eyes that held the weight of loss. He wore no war paint, only the weathered look of someone who had buried too many loved ones. "Nalnish," he said, his voice cutting through the desert silence. The warriors lowered their weapons immediately. He knelt beside Sarah, studying her face with an intensity that made her heart race despite her weakness. His calloused fingers touched her burning forehead, and she saw something flicker in his dark eyes. Recognition, perhaps, or destiny calling. "You will live," he said in perfect English, his accent thick but clear. "But not as you were." Before Sarah could protest, he lifted her effortlessly onto his horse. The world spun as they rode through hidden passages between towering red rocks, past ancient petroglyphs that seemed to watch their journey. She drifted in and out of consciousness, aware only of his strong arms around her and the steady rhythm of hoofbeats. When she awoke, she was lying on soft buffalo hides inside a traditional wickiup. An elderly Apache woman was pressing cool water to her lips, speaking in rapid Apache to the man who had saved her. Sarah caught fragments of their conversation, words about the white woman, about his dead wife, about signs from the spirits. "Where am I?" Sarah managed to ask. The man turned to face her, and she saw him clearly for the first time. He was perhaps 35, with silver threading through his black hair and a face carved by both sorrow and strength. 3 parallel scars ran from his left temple to his jaw, marks of a warrior who had survived what others had not. "You are in my village," he said simply. "I am Nalnish. In your tongue it means he who works. The elders have given you a name as well, Shizhe, my daughter. But you will not be my daughter." Sarah's blood chilled. "What do you mean?" "My wife died in the winter sickness 3 moons ago. My son needs a mother. The tribe needs to see that I have moved beyond grief." His eyes held no warmth, only practical necessity. "You will be my wife." "I most certainly will not." Sarah struggled to sit up, her head spinning. "You cannot simply decide such a thing. I am not some prize to be claimed." Nalnish's expression didn't change. "You were dying. I saved you. By Apache law, your life belongs to me now. You can choose to honor this debt as my wife, or—" He gestured toward the desert beyond the village. "You can try your luck alone again." Through the wickiup's opening, Sarah could see the vast expanse of unforgiving desert that had nearly killed her. No water, no horse, no supplies. She was trapped between certain death and an impossible choice. "There must be another way," she pleaded. "There is not." Nalnish stood, his tall frame blocking the light. "The ceremony will be tomorrow at sunset. My son Ashki will meet you then. He is 7 winters old and has not spoken since his mother died. Perhaps you can reach him where I cannot." As he left the wickiup, Sarah buried her face in her hands. How had her simple journey to teach school children led to this nightmare? She thought of her comfortable life in Boston, her students who adored her, the predictable routine that now seemed like paradise compared to this harsh reality. The elderly woman, who introduced herself as Nalnish's aunt, brought Sarah traditional Apache clothing, a doeskin dress decorated with intricate beadwork and silver conchos. "You must understand," she said in halting English, "Nalnish was not always so cold. When his wife Ayana lived, he laughed often. He sang to the children, but her death broke something inside him." "Then why does he want another wife?" Sarah asked, fingering the soft leather. "Because a leader cannot appear weak. The other warriors watch him, waiting to see if grief has made him unfit to protect the tribe. A wife shows strength, shows he has moved forward." The old woman's eyes were kind but firm. "And Ashki. The boy fades more each day. He needs hope." That evening, Sarah was brought to the central fire where the entire village had gathered. She felt dozens of eyes upon her as Nalnish approached, wearing ceremonial dress that transformed him from a practical warrior into something almost regal. Turquoise and silver adorned his chest, and eagle feathers crowned his black hair. But it was the small boy beside him who captured Sarah's attention. Ashki had his father's dark eyes, but none of his strength. The child seemed to fold in on himself, as if trying to disappear entirely. When their eyes met, Sarah saw a grief so profound it took her breath away. "Ashki," Nalnish said gently, "this is Shijee. She will be your new mother." The boy said nothing, but tears began to stream down his face. Without thinking, Sarah knelt and opened her arms. To everyone's surprise, Ashki ran to her, burying his face against her shoulder as sobs racked his small body. In that moment, holding this broken child, Sarah felt something shift inside her. Perhaps this wasn't about her choice at all. Perhaps this was about healing wounds that ran deeper than her own fear. The ceremony was brief but binding. As the medicine man chanted in Apache and smoke from sacred herbs filled the air, Sarah found herself speaking vows she never intended to make. When Nalnish placed a silver bracelet on her wrist, his first wife's bracelet, she felt the weight of replacing someone beloved. "It is done," he said quietly as the celebration continued around them. "You are my wife now, but do not expect love, Shijee. I have none left to give." His words stung more than Sarah expected. "Then what do you expect from me? Care for my son, keep my home, show the tribe that I am still a man worthy of following." His voice was matter-of-fact, as if discussing the weather. "In return, you will have protection, food, shelter. It is a fair exchange." But as Sarah watched Ashki clinging to her skirts, she wondered if anything about this arrangement could ever be fair. She was no longer Sarah Mitchell, Boston schoolteacher. She was Shijee, wife to a man who had saved her life but wanted nothing from her heart. That night, alone in the wickiup that was now her home, Sarah stared at the silver bracelet catching moonlight. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote howled, and she wondered if she would ever see civilization again. But when Ashki crept to her side, seeking comfort from nightmares, she held him close and realized that perhaps civilization wasn't what she needed to find. Perhaps what she needed was already here, in the form of a grieving child who had chosen to trust her when his own father could not. The next morning brought new challenges as Sarah attempted to navigate her role in Apache society. The women of the tribe watched her with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism as she struggled with even the simplest tasks. Grinding corn into meal left her hands bloody and raw, and her attempts at weaving resulted in tangled messes that the children laughed at. "You must learn our ways," Nalnish told her bluntly as he prepared to leave with a hunting party. "The women will teach you, but only if you show respect for their knowledge." "And what if I fail?" Sarah asked, exhaustion already weighing on her after just one day. "Then you will try again." His tone suggested that failure was not an option. Ashki needs to see his new mother as strong, capable. The tribe needs to see my wife as worthy. After he left, Sarah found herself under the watchful eye of several Apache women, led by a stern matriarch named Desba. Unlike Nalnish's kind aunt, Desba made no effort to hide her disapproval of the arrangement. "White woman thinks she can learn in one day what takes us lifetime," Desba muttered in Apache, though her meaning was clear enough from her tone. But it was Ashki who became Sarah's unexpected ally. The boy, still silent but observant, began showing her small kindnesses, bringing her water when her hands cramped from grinding corn, sitting beside her when the other children excluded her from their games. His presence gave her strength to endure the countless small humiliations of learning a completely foreign way of life. 3 weeks into her new existence, everything changed when Apache scouts brought word that soldiers were approaching the valley. The entire village erupted into controlled chaos as warriors prepared for potential conflict, and women began hiding supplies and children. "What's happening?" Sarah asked Nalnish as he painted his face for war. "Your people come," he said grimly. "Perhaps they look for you. Perhaps they come to drive us from our land again." He checked his rifle with practiced efficiency. "Either way, you must choose now where your loyalty lies." The weight of his words hit her like a physical blow. These soldiers might be her salvation, her chance to return to the world she knew. But looking at Ashki's terrified face, at the women who had begun to accept her despite their initial resistance, at the community that had become her unlikely refuge, Sarah realized the choice wasn't as simple as she had imagined. "I won't betray the village," she heard herself say, surprising them both. Something flickered in Nalnish's eyes. Approval, perhaps, or the first hint of respect. "Then you are truly Apache now," he said. "Hide with the other women. If the soldiers find you, tell them you chose to stay." But as the sound of approaching hoofbeats echoed through the canyon, Sarah wondered if she would live long enough to explain her choice to anyone. The life she had known was riding toward her, and she was no longer certain she wanted it back. If you're loving this incredible story of survival and unexpected love, hit that subscribe button, and let me know in the comments what you think Sarah should do when she faces the soldiers. Your support means everything, and don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss these amazing stories. The dust cloud grew larger as 20 cavalry soldiers rode into the canyon, their blue uniforms stark against the red rocks. Sarah crouched behind a boulder with the other women, her heart hammering as she recognized the lead officer, Captain James Morrison, her former fiancé from Boston. The man she had fled west to escape after discovering his gambling debts and lies. "We know you're harboring a white woman," Morrison's voice boomed across the village. "Sarah Mitchell was last seen heading into Apache territory 3 months ago. We demand her return." Sarah's blood turned to ice. James had followed her here, but not out of love. She could see the desperation in his posture, the way his eyes darted nervously. He needed her inheritance, the money her father had left her, to pay his mounting debts. Nalnish emerged from behind the central fire, flanked by his warriors. Even outnumbered, he radiated the quiet confidence of a man defending his home. "No white woman here by choice," he said in deliberately broken English, playing the role of a simple savage. "Only Apache." "Don't lie to me, Chief," Morrison spat, dismounting with theatrical authority. "We have witnesses who saw her enter this territory. Hand her over, and we'll leave peacefully." Sarah watched as Ashki crept closer to where she hid, his small hand finding hers. The boy's touch steadied her racing heart, reminding her of what truly mattered now. This child needed her. This village had become her sanctuary. James Morrison represented everything she had run from: a life of lies, social expectations, and loveless obligation. "Search the village," Morrison ordered his men. "Check every dwelling." As soldiers began ransacking the wiki-ups, Sarah made a decision that would change everything. She stood up slowly, stepping into view. The collective gasp from the Apache women was nothing compared to Morrison's shocked expression. "Sarah!" He rushed toward her but stopped short when he saw her Apache dress, the silver bracelet on her wrist, the way Ashki pressed protectively against her side. "My God, what have they done to you?" "They saved my life," Sarah said quietly, her voice carrying across the suddenly silent village. "Which is more than you ever did, James." Morrison's face flushed red. "You're coming back with me. You're my fiancé, and I won't have you living like a savage." "I was never your fiancé," Sarah replied, her voice growing stronger. "I was your meal ticket, and I'm not going anywhere." The captain's mask of concern slipped, revealing the desperate man beneath. "You don't understand, Sarah. We need to return to Boston. Your father's estate, the money he left you, it's tied up in legal matters that require your presence." "You mean it's tied up in your gambling debts?" Sarah shot back. "I know about the poker games, James. I know about the money you borrowed against my inheritance. That's why I left Boston in the first place." Nalnish stepped forward, his hand resting casually on his knife handle. "The woman has spoken. She stays." Morrison's desperation turned to rage. "She's been brainwashed, probably forced into some barbaric marriage ceremony." He turned to his men. "Sergeant, prepare to take Miss Mitchell by force if necessary." "Captain Morrison," Sarah said, her voice cutting through the tension like a blade. "I am no longer Miss Mitchell. I am Shije, wife of Nalnish, mother to Ashki. And if you try to take me from my family, you'll have to kill me first." The words hung in the air like a challenge. Sarah felt Nalnish's surprised gaze on her, felt the shift in the Apache warrior's stance as they realized she truly meant what she said. but it was Ashki's small voice that broke the silence. "Mother stays," the boy said clearly, speaking for the first time since his birth mother's death. "Mother stays with Ashki." Tears sprang to Sarah's eyes as she knelt and pulled the child close. Around them, the Apache people murmured in amazement. The silent boy had found his voice defending his new mother. Morrison's face contorted with fury. "This is insanity. You're throwing away everything. Your inheritance, your position in society, your future. For what? To play house with savages? To have a real family," Sarah replied simply. "Something you never offered me." The standoff stretched taut as a bowstring until one of Morrison's younger soldiers stepped forward. "Captain, sir, if the lady chooses to stay..." "She's not thinking clearly, Private," Morrison snapped. "She's been traumatized, probably threatened." "No one has threatened me," Sarah said firmly. "In fact, I've never felt safer in my life." Nalnish moved to stand beside her, his presence solid and reassuring. "My wife speaks truth. She came to us, dying in the desert. We gave her life, purpose, family. Now she gives the same to us." Something in his tone made Sarah look up at him sharply. There was a warmth there she hadn't heard before, a possessiveness that went beyond mere practicality. When their eyes met, she saw something that made her breath catch, the first crack in the wall he had built around his heart. Morrison, sensing he was losing control of the situation, played his final card. "Sarah, think about what you're doing. These people are nomads, constantly hunted by the army. How long before this village is destroyed? How long before that boy you're so fond of ends up dead or on a reservation?" His words hit their mark. Sarah felt the fear ripple through the Apache people around her, saw the grim acknowledgement in Nalnish's eyes. Morrison was right about one thing: this way of life was under constant threat. "But that's exactly why I need to stay," Sarah said, surprising herself with the conviction in her voice. "These people, this child, they need someone who can bridge both worlds, someone who can speak to the soldiers, negotiate, help them survive what's coming." "You're one woman," Morrison protested. "So you can't change the course of history?" "Maybe not," Sarah admitted, "but I can change the course of one little boy's life. I can help one village find a path forward, and that's enough for me." Morrison stared at her for a long moment, then his expression hardened. "Fine, stay with your savages, but don't come crying to me when reality sets in." He remounted his horse with sharp, angry movements. "When you're ready to return to civilization, you know where to find me." As the soldiers rode away, Sarah felt a mixture of relief and terror. She had just burned the last bridge to her old life, choosing a future that was uncertain at best, deadly at worst. "You spoke well," Nalnish said quietly as the dust settled. "But Morrison was not wrong about the dangers we face." "Then we'll face them together," Sarah replied, still holding Ashki close. "All of us." That evening, as the village celebrated Ashki's return to speech and Sarah's public declaration of loyalty, Nalnish approached her at the cooking fire. The formal distance he usually maintained was gone, replaced by something more intimate. "Why?" he asked simply. "You could have returned to comfort, safety, wealth. Why choose this?" Sarah looked around at the faces illuminated by firelight, women who had taught her their skills with growing patience, children who had begun to include her in their games, warriors who now nodded respectfully when she passed, and Ashki sleeping peacefully against her shoulder, his small hand still clutched in hers. "Because this is where I belong," she said. "I didn't know it when I first arrived, but I know it now. This is my family." Nalnish was quiet for a long moment, studying her face in the flickering light. "Ayana used to say that the spirits sometimes send us what we need in unexpected forms. I thought she was speaking of herbs for healing or rain for crops. I never imagined..." "What?" Sarah prompted gently. "I never imagined she meant you." The admission hung between them like a bridge waiting to be crossed. Sarah felt her heart race as she recognized the shift in his voice, the way his usual stoic mask had slipped to reveal the man beneath. "Nalnish," she began, but he held up a hand. "I know I said I had no love left to give. I believed that was true. But watching you today, seeing you choose us over everything you once knew, perhaps the heart can heal, even when we think it is broken beyond repair." Before Sarah could respond, he reached out and touched her face with surprising gentleness. "You are no longer just the woman I saved from the desert, or the convenient wife I needed for appearances. You are Shige, mother to my son, keeper of my heart." The kiss that followed was tender and hesitant, full of the wonder of two people discovering that love could bloom even in the harshest circumstances. Around them, the Apache people smiled and nodded approvingly. Their leader had found his way back to life. As they broke apart, Sarah realized that her journey to this moment had been worth every hardship, every fear, every moment of uncertainty. She had come west, seeking a simple teaching position, and instead found something far more precious: a love that transcended cultures, a family that chose each other, and a purpose that gave meaning to every day. "What happens now?" she asked, thinking of the challenges that lay ahead. "Now we build a life together," Nalnish replied, his arm tightening around her. "We teach Ashki to be strong and proud of both his Apache heritage and his new mother's wisdom. We help our people navigate the changing world, and we love each other through whatever storms may come." 6 months later, as Sarah taught Apache children to read English while learning their traditional stories in return, she often thought about the woman who had collapsed in the desert dust so long ago. That woman had been lost, desperate, clinging to a life that had never truly fit her. This woman, Shizahei, was found. She was home. When Ashki ran to her each evening, chattering excitedly about his day in both Apache and English, when Nalnish looked at her with eyes full of love and respect, when the village women sought her advice on dealing with the changing world around them, Sarah knew she had made the right choice. She had traded a life of comfortable emptiness for one of challenging fulfillment. She had exchanged social expectations for genuine love, and she had discovered that sometimes the greatest adventures begin not when we set out to find something, but when we allow ourselves to be found. The desert that had nearly killed her had instead given her everything she never knew she wanted: a husband who cherished her strength, a son who needed her wisdom, and a community that valued her contributions. In losing herself, she had found her true self. And as the sun set over the red rocks of Arizona, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson, Sarah smiled and knew that she was exactly where she belonged. This incredible journey of love, courage, and finding home in the most unexpected places shows us that sometimes our greatest blessings come disguised as our worst disasters. If this story touched your heart, smash that subscribe button right now and tell me in the comments about a time when something difficult led to something beautiful in your life. Don't forget to hit the notification bell and give this video a thumbs up. Your support helps me bring you more amazing stories like this one. Share this with someone who needs to hear that it's never too late to find where you truly belong.